Good afternoon and welcome to Devils in Red 59. Today is Wednesday, still a very hot day, so I hope that if you're out in it, you're still getting plenty of fluids down you and putting on the protection that's required. But today's news headlines is it's coming out from good sources that they believe that the Ederson deal from Atalanta is all but done. Apparently, the figure is reported to be in the region of about 34 million, with add-ons taking it up to about 38 million pounds. So, it looks like Manchester United are just now that close in the process to dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and it's looking like that Ederson will be our first signing of the summer. To say that the transfer window doesn't effectively open till the 15th of June, it shows that Manchester United are moving early in the market, and various people are now talking a lot more about this, saying, what a good player he is. He's a good defensive midfield player, and obviously that his forward passing is very good, and also he's a Europa League winner as well. So, he has got European football experience. The good thing about Ederson is over the last 4 years he's been at Atalanta, he's only missed 10 games throughout injury over 4 years. So, is he another Bruno, so to speak? I know he ain't going to be as good as Bruno, but is he going to be a Bruno in the respect that very rarely misses a game? He's got a good engine on him, and obviously that's what Manchester United are looking for in players that we bring in. And he also wants to come to Manchester United, which is another bonus for INEOS, because they only want players that are going to play for or want to play for Manchester United. So, it ticks a lot of boxes. So we've just got to wait now just for the final. Here we go, but it's expected to be any time from now up until about Friday. So it looks like he is our first signing, and interest also now is moving on to Mateus Fernandes at West Ham. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Fernandes at West Ham since they got relegated, and it looks like Manchester United are moving on that. He's liked by INEOS. He's liked by a lot of the players in our current side. So again, he's another player, that ticks a lot of boxes. I've only watched him a few times, but in the few games I have watched him, he has stood out well in respect of his ball play, moving it forward. The last thing we want is, the likes of another Ugarte that, is playing side to side and knocking it back all the time. We do want to be that pressing Manchester United of years gone by when Alex Ferguson was here. We was always known for high level pressing, getting it out to the wings, to the wingers taking on the defenders and getting the crosses in for the likes of our strikers and number 10s and etc. to get on the end of it. And that's what Manchester United has been renowned for over the years. So looking at some of these players we seem to be linked with, they seem to have that type of thing about them where they are going to be more of a pressing midfield, where they're, putting the ball forward as opposed to constantly knocking it side to side and back. So it'll be nice to see that coming back into Manchester United again. I don't know what your thoughts are on Ederson and the likes of Fernandes from West Ham, but I think personally they're two good young signings. Well, Ederson's not so young; he's 26, but he'll be 27 by the time he puts a jersey on to kick off in the back end of this summer, I believe. So, but he's still a good age. He's coming into his prime at 27, and I believe that the contract that's been discussed is for 5 years, which would take him up to 2031. and possibly there'd probably be another year's option on the end of that as well. I mean, players today, they do seem to be playing well into the 30s now. So, come 2031, he's still only going to be just 31 Bruno's age. So, very good possibility if he keeps himself trim and looks after himself the way Bruno has, that he could possibly carry on for another few more years after that. So, it's encouraging to see that we are being linked and bringing in players like that to give us the foundations that we need to push this club forward and be back, um, in the major competitions and competing in those competitions and picking up silverware again. Elliot, Anderson, and Tonali, it's looking increasingly likely that neither of them are going to come to Manchester United the way things are sort of being spoke about. As it was mentioned the other day, apparently Elliot Anderson's figure has gone as high as 115,000 from the owner of Nottingham Forest, by all accounts. Other people are saying round about the 105, and then yesterday I heard it could be as low as 90 million. But obviously, Manchester United are saying they want to move away from those big transfer fees and big wages and so forth. And it's looking, more likely that he's going to go to Manchester City. And personally, if he is choosing Manchester City over Manchester United purely based on a bigger wage and so forth, and he doesn't really want to make the commitment to come to Manchester United like some of the players from last season, and obviously players that they're looking at for this season that have sort of indicated they want to come and play for Manchester United. Then do we really want Elliot Anderson? And Tonali, he's gone very, very quiet at the moment. And I mean, I know we've been linked with him, and I think his fee's going to be in the region of about 80 to 85 million. Is that going to be too much for INEOS? But obviously, INEOS keep throwing out there that they're not happy with his gambling situation, and that's come out 3 or 4 times now. So, is that writing us off from going for the likes of Tonali? So, uh, you know, who else does that leave as a marquee signing? I mean, there's Tuchemini, but until Jose Mourinho goes in there, Real Madrid don't really know what Mourinho wants to do, whether he's got plans to keep Tuchemini and how he wants to use him, or whether he wants to move him on. So that's going to be a bit of a waiting game. But there's only less than 2 weeks now before the World Cup starts, so it's very unlikely, unless a miracle happens over the next 2 weeks, that we go anywhere with that one at the moment. So, it'll be interesting to see who this marquee signing is. As I said the other day on a video, it could well be someone that we haven't considered before. And when it comes out, it may well be, oh yeah, I never thought of him. I didn't think he'd be available, or whatever. And he's a class player, and he's a good fit and replacement for Casemiro. So, you know, we've got to wait. And I know some of the other rumours have been floating around saying that INEOS want to announce the marquee Casemiro signing before everybody heads off to the World Cup and holidays and so forth. So, it really is going to be interesting to see who this marquee signing is going to be. Little bit more information on Marcus Rashford. I mean, over the last couple of days, they've sort of indicated that they want to keep Rashford at Barcelona, and there's no problems with his contract and terms and so forth. And Barcelona have entered into negotiations with Manchester United to try and do a deal. Um, Obviously, Barcelona's stance on it is that they want to try and get the fee down, or if they don't get the fee down, they're talking of another season loan. And Manchester United are standing and playing hardball by saying, well, if you want him, we want our 26 million, otherwise we'll have him back. And will put him up for sale, and I'm sure somebody else will come in for him. So, the other thing is apparently, Barcelona have entered into talks with Anthony Gordon and his agents from Newcastle. Now, we all know Anthony Gordon with his age and so forth. He's not going to be in the same market transfer fee as Marcus Rashford in the 20 odd millions. I mean, initially they said Anthony Gordon would probably be in the region of about 80 million, but I've heard today that it could be as low as 60 million. But realistically, if Barcelona don't want to pay 26 million for the likes of Marcus Rashford, how are they going to come up with the money for 60 million plus for Anthony Gordon? So I think, this is just Barcelona playing silly buggers to say, well, if you don't agree to us letting him have him on another season loan, or we can't lower the price, then we have got somebody else of interest in Anthony Gordon, and I think realistically, Manchester United have a club. If need be, we've got to call the bluff and stand on it and say, well, he's 26 million, and take it or leave it. If you don't want it, then we'll find another club that will pay the money for him, and I'm sure there is going to be one or two clubs out there that would be interested in taking him. I mean, you can never write out Bayern Munich. There's bound to be Italian clubs that's interested in him as well. So, and obviously, I heard a little rumour some days ago that Jose Mourinho might be interested in taking him to Real Madrid. So I don't think we're going to be short of interest on him. It's just getting somebody to make that commitment to actually take the final steps and enter into talks and agree a price with Manchester United for him. So, it looks like the transfer window is hotting up now. Obviously, the bank holiday, there was never going to be an awful lot go on over that period of time. But since we've come out of the bank holiday, yesterday was a little bit quiet, albeit there was one or two things floating about. But today, surely heated up, So I think this week, we will see Ederson signed. And obviously, I think if we are going for Fernandes from West Ham, I think that we'll see some ground covered on that one, at least by the end of the week, to say, well, Manchester United have took it to the stage where they're now talking to West Ham to discuss a transfer fee. I personally believe, as I've said before, that because they've been relegated, I think that Fernandes at West Ham is well achievable at round about the 50 to 55 million, maybe. And again, I've heard of the situation saying it will be a minimum of 60, but I don't think at 60 million he would be a bad fit personally. He's looked at as being a prospect, but he's a prospect that's had a couple of years in the Premiership experience, and he does sort of stand out along with the likes of Alex Scott at Bournemouth. I really rate him very highly, but as Bournemouth have now got into European football, it's whether Bournemouth would be prepared to let him go, and if they do let him go, I think they'd want to bump the price up because they are in Europe. So again, the likes of Scott has got to be something that we keep an eye on. But most certainly it's looking like it's getting off to a good start, and it's going to be a good summer for Manchester United. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Um, the other bit of news that's come out today is Betway, which I believe is the main football shirt sponsor, has now actually agreed a deal with Manchester United, and it's been announced this afternoon that a deal has been reached with Betway for them to have their name on our training kit. It's not going to be on anything else like anywhere in Carrington and stuff. It's purely for the training kit, and I believe that is going to bring in £20 million per year. And I do remember something a few weeks ago when it was first mentioned, saying about 80 million. So I can only assume that it's possibly going to be a a 4-year contract with Betway to have their name on our training kit. So, you know, good stuff again. 20 million coming in, which hopefully will go into the transfer kitty and not the Glazers' pockets. So, and if we can get the likes of Rashford sorted out, we can get 20 odd million for him. We know we've already got the Rasmus money done and dusted, so we've got about 38 million coming in from there. Casemiro's wages going off the books, Sancho's wages going off the books. We need to look at one or two other players that we need to get off the books as well, and hopefully get a bit of a transfer fee for. I mean, it's still quite strong. Xerxes, he's probably going to go. So if we can bring a few quid in for him and get his wages off the books, then that might help us get a backup striker or somebody that can compete with Sesko for the number 9 position, because competition is always good. Ugarte, I heard something again today that, indicating is Ugarte going to stay. I don't think he's going to stay for 1 minute. It's more of a question with the money owed from his transfer, because I think he was a 5-year contract that he had with Manchester United, or certainly 4 anyway, but I seem to believe it was 5, and I think we paid in the region of about 55 million for him. So at the moment, we would have to get probably 30 million transfer fee for Ugarte to break even on the books, but at least it'd take that debt off the books and give us that money back to spend again. But I think Ugarte's had his time. I mean, Michael Carrick hasn't used him. Amrin never used him, so it's quite clear that he hasn't really got a situation where he can stay at Manchester United. But the other option is Manchester United, if they can't get the 30 million or 30 odd million for him, that they may look at loaning him out for 12 months, and then that will put him in a bit better position where we could probably get 20 odd million for him the following season. And then, of course, there's always Onana, the goalkeeper that's allegedly coming back, and he wants to fight for his position at the club. Again, with all the conversations that's took place over recent weeks and months, I think it's quite clear that, Manchester United are not going to entertain having him back by any shape or form at Manchester United. And I don't think they want these type of players coming back in, reporting for pre-season and walking into Carrington with a smile on the face. So, I think these type of situations will be hopefully dealt with before they get the opportunity to report back for training at Carrington, and it's done, dusted, whatever that may be, whether it's a sell-off or whether they're loaned out again. But either way, we don't want, them around our other players, because Michael Carrick has quite obviously started to build something really good. He's calmed everything down. He's got the players playing, not necessarily the style of football that Manchester United fans or all of them would necessarily want to see. But I think with signings that will come in over the summer, added to what we got last summer, then I think that the style of football will change. And if the Brighton game's any indication as to how Michael Carrick wants to play, then it looks like that we will play more forward attacking football as opposed to sitting back and trying to hit people on the counter attack. Albeit in some games with every club, throughout a season, you might have to approach 1 or 2 games where you think, well, we need to sit back a bit more on this and look for the opportunity to hit them on the counter attack. I appreciate that. We've all watched football long enough to understand how the game works. But I think in the main that Michael Carrick and his training staff will want to, sort of address a different style of football to what we've seen this summer or this season, ready for next season. And I do believe that will happen. But that's pretty much the news at the moment. I think everybody's just waiting for the final here we go on Ederson, which I'm sure will come from any time now to possibly Friday. So we're all keeping our ears and eyes open for that one. And obviously developments on Fernandes from West Ham, because I think he will possibly be the next port of call to try and get something done early, as he's not involved in the World Cup and so forth. But thank you to everyone for watching all my previous videos, and please hit the subscribe button, because that all helps. My numbers have started to going up nicely, which I thank everyone for that has subscribed. Please share the video and smash the like button, and obviously look forward to doing another video, hopefully with a bit more good news for you. So thank you very much. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe and share the video. Thank you very much.